Hey guys, how's it going and welcome back. So how do you adjust the tension on a Kyser capo? Interesting. A lot of people complain that this particular brand of capo adds too much extra pressure onto the neck, and of course you're playing up in pitch, obviously, when that happens, right? So you're definitely, well, when you put a capo on, you're playing up in pitch anyways, but you don't want to be over the pitch that it's supposed to go to, right? And so how do we solve this as best as possible? Well, you've got a couple options. One, throw it in the garbage and go buy yourself an adjustable capo. Okay, I do have adjustable capos, and they are very handy for electric guitars. Also very handy for some acoustics, because you're only going to be able to adjust this so much. Now, if you look right at it, you're going to see that there's a very thick portion up top. That's the normal portion of that rubber insert that is actually the other way around, okay, which adds on a lot of extra pressure onto the neck. So if you remove it and flip it around the other way, this does relieve a lot of pressure, okay, which depending on your neck could be the perfect setting. Or if you have a much thicker neck, well, it helps a little bit, but still not quite enough. So how do we resolve this even further? Well, that's when you take it in your hand and you actually can bend this back a little bit at a time, okay? And it'll kind of straighten it more out this way and create more of a gap in here, and then you can slam it on, and that should actually get you right on about where you should be. Now, any stringed instrument, of course, we talk about intonation, we talk about fret placement, and we take a look at where things are sitting. And of course, the better the made guitar, the more precise of spacing that's going to happen from fret to fret for more exacting being on pitch for that particular fret and where it's supposed to be at. So if you have your string like your E string, for example, well, there is no E sharp, right? So we go from E to F. So what we want to know is it going to be an F solid, or is it going to be an F that is just kind of like a little bit below or a little hairball above? A little bit of plus or minus is not a bad thing, especially when we're only talking about maybe one marker on the tuner. Okay, it's not going to be a huge issue. In fact, it's very common to be about that far out. When you start getting 2 or 3 marks below or above, now you've got some problems here. And this is where a capo, especially this model, factory setup, is generally too tight for every guitar out there, okay, regardless, okay? So this is where you take this rubber boot off and you flip it around the other way, and you get more or less half the thickness there. So now you've got half the amount of pressure that you had before in that kind of a theory, right? So now when we go and we check our tuning and we put that just on the first fret, okay, so you can see it's on my first fret. The other thing is you want to get it close to the fret but still being away from the fret, the wire itself. Then we check, and we see we do have a solidly tuned F as far as this tuner goes. So now we want to check it against a more advanced tuner. So for that, we're going to want probably one of our shark tuners, if I can figure out. There it is. So if I take my shark tuner, I want to check it against that same string, and I want to see where it's at, and it's actually right bang on an F, which, let me get the right angle here. So it's right on F. Wow, looks like Epiphone did an amazing job on frets with this thing. So let's move that up, which should give us an F sharp. And our F sharp is bang on. So we actually have the proper amount of tension for this neck with flipping the boot. And I've had to make no other adjustment. So that's a good thing. So we know that the fretwork is definitely good. And you can go up every single fret you want. Generally, a capo is never, ever used anywhere past the 5th fret. If you have to go above the 5th fret, you better learn some more chords, because this becomes a real problem. So if you look at 5th fret, we'll put it on the 5th fret here. Now that's not too bad. There are some songs we actually play in church that do require the 5th fret or the proper chord without the capo, depending on who's playing and what their knowledge base is of chords. But if we go up to the 6th fret, okay, so one higher, even I can't sing that pitch. That's just really way out of my league. But generally you never do go above the 5th fret with a capo. So you want to make sure you check at least the first 5 frets, but make sure your guitar is actually properly in tune before even slamming that capo on and checking. And it's all about being as precise as you can to that tuner being dead on center. So no plus or minus forgiveness. You want to be dead on center. Then you'll know how well your intonation is, how well your fret work is. Now you could still have amazing fret work, but your intonation may be out, so do check your intonation before doing everything. So make sure your string is tuned to pitch. Check and see where the outage is, because there is always going to be some outages. Perfect intonation is a joke. It does not exist, and it can never exist, especially in a stringed instrument. It is impossible to have every string exactly perfectly intonated. The word perfect in itself is an illusion, which I've talked about many times on music videos. It's non-existent, and it definitely is fully 100% non-existent on any stringed instrument. The variables are too much that it cannot be done, okay? It's kind of like perfect pitch for singing. I believe that's also a joke too. A person can sound really good, or what we consider to be perfect pitch, we can call it perfect pitch. But to have the reality of that, that's another story. It doesn't exist. So, not 100%. Nothing is ever 100%, right? So, anyways, hopefully this video helped you out. So, if you do have a Kyser capo and you are having pitch problems, take the rubber boot off and flip it the other way. Well, why doesn't Kyser just do that right from the beginning? That's a very good question, to which even I don't have an answer for that. Maybe you should call Kyser and ask them. Because every Kyser capo I've owned, I've flipped the boots on, and depending on the guitar, depending on whether or not I had to bend the bar back a little bit as well. Now, you got to be careful when you're bending it, because you can snap this metal, okay? So you want to just do a little bit. So you want to grab it, kind of do something like this, and then just bend it back gently. So have your thumb back here, like this, and just bend it back gently and just check it against your guitar. Now, if you have multiple guitars, this could be something where, you know, this may work on a couple of your guitars, but on others it's still going to be too high out of pitch. For that, you probably want to invest your money into an adjustable capo. And there's nothing wrong with adjustable capos. They work very well, but if you have to do quick changing between songs and you are using a capo, this is best over an adjustable capo. However, you may want to have a couple of these and maybe modify a couple of them a little bit more, just so that you have one for specific guitars. Mark your capo so you know, or figure out some way to do it. And then have this one for your other guitars where it works absolutely great on. Okay, but like I said too, depending on the quality level of your guitar too, depends on how well that fretwork is done, because fret spacing will also determine, when you push that string down, how well in pitch that string is going to be. And you will have some plus or minuses that will show up. So even though we did get a perfect F and a perfect F sharp in the perfect world, okay, that doesn't mean that every string is going to be exactly precisely the same, right? Even on the same capo position. But it'll be more than close enough that it'll be actually undetectable by anybody, you know, probably including yourself, right? But the big thing is we do want things to be as best as possible. Now, if you follow what I've explained to you since the beginning of this video and how to do things for tuning, etc., and then checking, you may have an issue where you may have a guitar that may even have great fretwork for spacing, but maybe your intonation is not quite right, so you may have to get that fixed up. But you know, you usually don't see too many problems with that, except on really super cheap guitars, especially acoustics. You know, and acoustics aren't as vulnerable, we'll say, as an electric. An electric can be tweaked more, where an acoustic, it's very difficult to tweak an acoustic, and the process is a lot longer and requires a professional to do that, not yourself, for intonation on acoustics. Anyways, hope you got a lot out of the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.